A man's brush with death leads him on an extraordinary journey through the afterlife, where he claims to witness the fate of countless souls. His story challenges beliefs and raises questions about faith, salvation, and the nature of eternity. My name is Finian Caldwell, and I'm 45 years old. I never thought I'd have a story like this to tell. It all started on a regular day at work. I'm a construction foreman, and we were working on a new office building downtown. The day began like any other. I got up early, had my usual breakfast of toast and coffee, and kissed my wife goodbye. As I drove to the site, I thought about the tasks ahead. We were behind schedule, and I needed to push the crew to pick up the pace. When I arrived, I put on my hard hat and safety vest. I walked around, checking on different areas and talking to the workers. Everything seemed normal at first. Around mid-morning, I noticed something wasn't right with one of the cranes. The operator, Jake, was having trouble controlling it. I radioed him to stop work immediately. "Jake, shut it down now," I yelled into the radio. But it was too late. The crane's arm swung wildly, knocking over a stack of steel beams. Workers scattered, trying to get out of the way. I ran towards the danger, shouting warnings. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my head. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the ground. People were gathered around me, looking worried. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness hit me. "Don't move, Finian," someone said. "An ambulance is on the way." I touched my head and felt something wet. When I looked at my hand, it was covered in blood. That's when I realized how serious it was. The paramedics arrived quickly. They put a neck brace on me and loaded me onto a stretcher. As they carried me to the ambulance, I saw the mess at the site. The crane was still, and workers were cleaning up the fallen beams. In the ambulance, the paramedics asked me questions and checked my vitals. I felt dizzy and nauseous. The lights and sirens hurt my head even more. At the hospital, doctors ran tests and took scans. They told me I had a severe concussion and some bleeding in my brain. They needed to operate right away. I was scared. I thought about my wife, my kids, and all the things I still wanted to do in life. As they prepared me for surgery, I prayed for the first time in years. "God, if you're there, please help me," I whispered. The anesthesiologist put a mask over my face. "Count backward from 10, he said. I started counting. 10, 9, 8. Everything faded to black. I don't know how long I was out. It felt like I was floating in darkness. Then, slowly, I became aware of a light. It was faint at first, but it grew brighter. I felt myself being pulled towards the light. It wasn't scary. In fact, it felt peaceful and warm. As I got closer, I saw a figure standing in the light. The figure reached out to me. I took its hand, and suddenly, I was standing in a beautiful garden. The colors were more vivid than anything I'd ever seen on earth. The air was fresh and sweet. The figure beside me spoke. "Welcome, Finian," it said in a kind voice. I looked at the figure and realized it was an angel. It had a gentle face and glowing wings. I was amazed but not afraid. "Am I dead?" I asked. The angel smiled. "Not yet," it said. "You're between worlds right now. There's something you need to see." The angel led me through the garden. We came to a gate made of pearl. It opened, and we stepped through. On the other side, the scene changed dramatically. Instead of a beautiful garden, we were in a dark, gloomy place. I could hear cries and moans in the distance. "What is this place?" I asked, feeling uneasy. "This is what you humans call hell," the angel said. The angel's words sent a chill through me. Hell? I had always believed in heaven, but hell seemed like something from scary stories. Yet here I was, standing at its entrance. "Why are we here?" I asked, my voice shaking. The angel looked at me with serious eyes. "You need to understand the consequences of rejecting God's truth," it said. "Follow me." We walked down a dark path. The ground was hot under my feet, and the air smelled like smoke. As we went deeper, I saw people in the distance. They were in pain, crying out for help. "Who are these people?" I asked. "These are souls who rejected God's message," the angel explained. "They chose to follow false teachings instead of the truth." As we got closer, I could see the people more clearly. To my shock, I recognized some of them. There was my old neighbor, Mr. Ahmed, who had always been kind to me, and there was the friendly cashier from the grocery store, Mrs. Fatima. "But they were good people," I said, confused. "Why are they here?" The angel shook its head. "Being good isn't enough," it said. They didn't accept Jesus as their savior. They followed a different path. I felt a deep sadness as I looked at these familiar faces. They had been my friends and neighbors on earth. Now they were suffering. We walked further and I saw more and more people. Some I recognized from TV or the news. Others were strangers, but they all had one thing in common. They were Muslims in life. "Are all Muslims here?" I asked, feeling shocked. The angel nodded. "Those who die without accepting Jesus end up here," it said. "It doesn't matter how good they were in life. Without faith in Christ, they can't enter heaven." I saw people from all walks of life. There were poor people and rich people, young and old, men and women. Some wore traditional Muslim clothes, while others were dressed in modern outfits. One man caught my eye. He was dressed like a religious leader, with a long beard and a cap on his head. He was crying out in Arabic, but I could somehow understand him. "Allah, why have you abandoned us?" he wailed. "We followed your prophet. We prayed 5 times a day. We gave to charity. Why are we here?" My heart ached for him and all the others. They looked so lost and confused. "Can't they get another chance?" I asked the angel. They didn't know they were following the wrong path. The angel shook its head again. "Once a soul enters hell, there's no way out," it said. "That's why it's so important to spread the truth while people are still alive." We continued walking. The cries of the damned souls filled my ears. I saw people I had known in life, people I had seen on TV, and millions I had never met before. There was a group of women huddled together, comforting each other. They wore hijabs and long dresses. One of them looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "Please," she begged, "tell our families on earth. Warn them about this place. Tell them to find the true path before it's too late." I wanted to help her, to comfort her somehow, but I couldn't. The angel gently pulled me along. We came to a vast pit. The heat coming from it was intense. I could hear screams echoing from its depths. "What's down there?" I asked, afraid of the answer. "The lowest levels of hell," the angel said, "reserved for the worst sinners and those who led others astray." I peered over the edge and saw figures writhing in agony. Among them, I recognized some faces from history books and news reports. There were terrorist leaders, extremist preachers, and others who had spread hatred and violence in the name of Islam. They suffer the most, the angel explained, not only for their own sins but for the sins of those they misled. I turned away, unable to bear the sight any longer. "I don't understand," I said. "How can a loving God allow this?" The angel looked at me with compassion. "God is loving, but he is also just," it said. "He gave humans free will and clear guidance. Those who reject his truth choose this fate for themselves." We walked on, and I saw more and more souls. There were Muslims from every country and culture. I saw Arabs, Persians, Turks, Indonesians, Africans, and even Western converts. They all shared the same fate, regardless of their background or how devout they had been in life. I noticed a group of young people huddled together. They looked like they were in their teens or early 20s. One of them, a boy who couldn't have been more than 16, caught my eye. "We didn't know," he cried out. "We just followed what our parents taught us. How were we supposed to know it was wrong?" His words hit me hard. I thought about my own children and how they trusted me to guide them. What if I was leading them down the wrong path without realizing it? The angel seemed to sense my thoughts. "This is why it's crucial to seek the truth actively," it said. "Blind faith can be dangerous." We passed by a section where the souls seemed to be reliving their earthly lives. I saw people going through the motions of prayer, facing towards Mecca and bowing down. But instead of finding peace, they were in agony. "Their prayers are meaningless now," the angel explained. "They prayed to a false god, and now they realize the truth too late." I saw others trying to read from copies of the Quran, but the pages burst into flames as soon as they touched them. Their cries of despair echoed through the air. As we walked, I noticed something strange. Despite the heat and the flames all around us, I didn't feel any physical discomfort. The angel explained that I was here in spirit form, protected from the torments of hell. We came to an area where the souls were being tormented by dark, shadowy creatures. These beings whispered in the ears of the damned, reminding them of their earthly sins and mocking their false beliefs. "These are demons," the angel said. "They delight in the suffering of lost souls." I watched in horror as the demons tormented a group of people who had been religious leaders in life. Imams, scholars, and preachers were being forced to face the consequences of spreading false teachings. "You led others astray," the demons hissed. "Now you will bear the weight of their sins as well as your own." The sight was almost too much to bear. I turned to the angel, feeling overwhelmed. "Why are you showing me all this?" I asked. The angel's face was solemn. "You need to understand the gravity of false beliefs," it said. "When you return to earth, you must share what you've seen. You must warn others about the consequences of rejecting the true faith." We continued our journey through hell. I saw countless more souls, each with their own story of how they ended up here. There were those who had been raised Muslim from birth and never questioned their faith. There were converts who had embraced Islam later in life, thinking they had found the truth. One woman's story particularly struck me. She had been a humanitarian worker, dedicating her life to helping others. She looked at me with pleading eyes. "I thought I was doing God's work," she said. "I fed the hungry, cared for the sick, and fought for justice. How could this be my reward?" The angel answered her, though I wasn't sure if she could hear. "Good deeds alone cannot save a soul," it said. "Faith in Jesus Christ is the only way to salvation." As we walked, I noticed that the landscape of hell seemed to shift and change. Sometimes we were in fiery pits, other times in icy wastelands. The angel explained that hell adapts to intensify the suffering of each soul. We passed through an area where souls were forced to watch their loved ones on earth. They could see their family and friends continuing their lives, unaware of the fate that awaited them if they didn't change their beliefs. "This is one of the worst torments," the angel said. "They can see the truth now, but they can't warn those they love." I saw a father reaching out towards an image of his children, crying out in anguish as he watched them being taught the same false beliefs that had condemned him. The sight broke my heart. I thought of my own family and how devastated I would be if I couldn't protect them from this fate. As we continued, I began to notice something. Among the countless Muslim souls, I saw people from other faiths as well. There were Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, and even some who had called themselves Christians. "I don't understand," I said to the angel. "Why are there people from other religions here too?" The angel looked at me with patience. "Hell is not just for Muslims," it explained. "It's for all who reject the true path to salvation through Jesus Christ." Some of these souls followed other false religions, while others twisted the teachings of Christianity to suit their own desires. This revelation made me realize the enormity of the situation. It wasn't just about one religion being wrong. It was about the consequences of not finding and following the true faith. We walked past a group of souls who had been scientists and intellectuals in life. They were surrounded by books and scientific instruments, but everything they tried to read or experiment with turned to ash in their hands. "They put their faith in human knowledge alone," the angel said. "They rejected the wisdom of God in favor of their own understanding." I saw famous historical figures, philosophers, and leaders who had shaped the world's understanding of Islam. They were now facing the eternal consequences of their teachings. One man, who I recognized as a well-known Islamic scholar, was surrounded by a crowd of angry souls. They were shouting at him, blaming him for their fate. "You told us we were on the right path," they cried. "You said we would be rewarded for our faith." The scholar could only weep, unable to offer any comfort or explanation to those he had misled. As we continued our journey, I noticed that some areas of hell seemed worse than others. The angel explained that the punishment fit the severity of the person's sins and the impact of their false beliefs. Those who actively led others astray suffer more than those who simply followed blindly, it said. We came to a vast plain where millions of souls were gathered. They were all facing in one direction, as if waiting for something. The angel told me they were facing towards Jerusalem. "They still hope for salvation," it said sadly, "but it will never come." Suddenly the ground shook and a great chasm opened up. Many of the souls fell into it, their screams echoing as they disappeared into the depths. "What's happening?" I asked, horrified. "The day of judgment," the angel replied. "Even in hell, souls face ongoing judgment and increasing torment." We moved on, and I saw more and more heartbreaking scenes. There were young children who had died before they could learn the truth, now suffering for eternity. There were kind and generous people who had dedicated their lives to helping others, now realizing that their good deeds couldn't save them. One scene that particularly struck me was a group of interfaith leaders. In life, they had worked to promote understanding and cooperation between different religions. Now, they were forced to face the reality that their efforts, while well-intentioned, had led people away from the one true path. Tolerance and understanding are good, the angel said, but not when they compromise the truth of salvation through Christ alone. As we walked, I began to feel a deep sense of responsibility. I had been shown all of this for a reason. I needed to warn others, to share the truth before it was too late for them. We came to a place where souls were being tormented by their own memories. They were forced to relive moments when they had rejected or mocked the Christian message. I saw people laughing at street preachers, throwing away Bibles, and arguing against the divinity of Jesus. They had chances to hear the truth, the angel said, but they chose to ignore or reject it. I watched as one man relived a conversation with a Christian friend who had tried to share the gospel with him. In life, he had dismissed his friend's words. Now, he reached out desperately, trying to change his past decision, but it was too late. The angel led me to a high vantage point from where I could see the vast expanse of hell. It stretched out as far as I could see, filled with countless suffering souls. This is only a small part of hell, the angel said. It goes on much further than you can imagine. The realization of how many people were suffering here overwhelmed me. I fell to my knees, weeping for all the lost souls. Why? I cried out. Why did God allow so many to be deceived? The angel placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. God gave humans free will, it said. He provided clear guidance through His Word and His Son. Those who end up here have chosen this fate by rejecting His truth. As I looked out over the sea of tormented souls, I saw something that shocked me even more. Among the crowds, I spotted familiar faces from my own life. There was my college roommate, Ali, who had always been so kind and thoughtful. And there was Mrs. Patel, the sweet old lady who used to babysit my kids. No, I whispered. Not them too. The angel nodded solemnly. They rejected the truth, even when they had chances to hear it. I remembered conversations I'd had with both of them about faith. Ali had always been respectful of my beliefs, but insisted that his Muslim faith was just as valid. Mrs. Patel had smiled and said all religions lead to the same God. Now I realized how wrong they had been, and how I had failed them by not pushing harder to share the truth. Can't they get another chance? I pleaded with the angel. They were good people. They just didn't understand. The angel shook its head. Once a soul enters hell, there's no escape, it said. That's why it's so crucial to spread the truth while people are still alive. We continued our journey, and I saw more scenes of suffering and despair. There were Muslims who had been martyrs in life, thinking they were dying for a holy cause. Now they realized they had thrown their lives away for a lie. I saw others who had persecuted Christians, thinking they were defending their faith. Now they faced the consequences of their actions, tormented by the very people they had once tormented. As we walked, the angel explained more about the nature of hell. The physical pain is terrible, it said, but the spiritual and emotional anguish is even worse. These souls know they've lost their chance at eternal happiness. They understand now that they rejected the true God, and that knowledge torments them endlessly. We passed by a group of souls who were desperately trying to perform Islamic rituals. They attempted to pray, to recite the Shahada, to give zakat, but their actions brought them no comfort, only more pain. Their faith is useless here, the angel said. They're clinging to the very beliefs that condemned them. I saw others who were being forced to face the consequences of the strict Islamic laws they had enforced in life. Those who had persecuted others for not following Sharia were now suffering the punishments they had once dealt out. As we continued, I noticed something strange. Despite the vast number of souls we had seen, hell didn't seem crowded. The angel explained that hell expands to accommodate all who enter it, ensuring that each soul has space to experience its full measure of torment. We came to an area where souls were confronted with visions of heaven. They could see glimpses of the paradise they had missed out on, which only increased their suffering. "This is one of the cruelest punishments," the angel said. "They can see what they've lost, but they can never reach it." I watched as souls reached out desperately towards the visions of heaven, only to have them disappear like smoke. Their cries of anguish were heartbreaking. As our journey neared its end, the angel brought me to one final scene. It was a vast amphitheater, filled with millions of souls. At the center was a huge screen showing events on Earth. "This is where they watch the spread of Islam on Earth," the angel explained. "They see more and more people following the path that led them here, and they can do nothing to stop it." I watched the screen in horror. I saw mosques being built, Islamic schools opening, and people converting to Islam. With each image, the cries of the damned souls grew louder. "Please," they shouted at the screen, "don't make the same mistake we did. Find the truth before it's too late." But their cries went unheard by those on Earth. As I stood there, taking in this final terrible scene, I felt a deep sense of purpose growing within me. I knew why I had been shown all of this. I had a mission now. The angel turned to me. "It's time for you to go back," it said. "Remember what you've seen here. Share the truth with others. Help save souls from this fate." I nodded, feeling the weight of this responsibility. "I will," I promised. "I'll do everything I can to spread the truth." As the angel prepared to send me back, I took one last look at the suffering souls around me. I silently vowed to do whatever it took to prevent others from ending up here. Suddenly, everything went dark. I felt myself being pulled away from hell, back towards the light I had seen at the beginning of my journey. As I moved through the darkness, I heard the angel's voice one last time. "Remember, Finian," it said, "faith in Jesus Christ is the only way to salvation. Spread this message to all you meet." Then, everything went quiet. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the bright hospital lights. My throat felt dry, and my whole body ached. But I was alive. A nurse noticed I was awake and quickly called for the doctor. Soon, my room was filled with medical staff checking my vitals and asking me questions. "Mr. Caldwell," the doctor said, smiling, "you gave us quite a scare. How are you feeling?" I tried to speak, but my voice came out as a croak. The nurse gave me some water, and I took a small sip. "What happened?" I managed to ask. The doctor explained that I had been in a coma for 3 days after my surgery. There had been complications, and at one point they had almost lost me. As the doctor spoke, memories of my experience came flooding back. The journey through hell, the countless souls I had seen, the angel's warning, it all felt so real. "I need to talk to my family," I said urgently. The doctor nodded. "They're right outside. I'll send them in, but don't overexert yourself." A few minutes later, my wife Sarah and our 2 children, Emily and Michael, came into the room. Sarah's eyes were red from crying, and the kids looked scared. "Dad!" Emily cried, rushing to my bedside. "We were so worried." I hugged them all as best I could with my weak arms. "I'm okay," I assured them, "but I have something important to tell you." Over the next hour, I told them everything I had experienced. I described the journey through hell, the souls I had seen, and the message the angel had given me. Sarah looked concerned. "Finian, honey, you've been through a traumatic experience. Maybe this was just a vivid dream caused by the medication." But I shook my head firmly. "No, Sarah, it was real. I know it sounds crazy, but I saw it all, and I have to share what I learned." The kids looked confused and a bit scared. Michael, always the skeptic, asked, "But Dad, how do you know it wasn't just your brain making things up?" I looked at him seriously. "Son, I saw things I couldn't possibly have imagined. I saw people I knew, historical figures, and millions of others. It was more real than anything I've ever experienced." Over the next few days, as I recovered in the hospital, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. I knew I had been given a second chance for a reason. I had to use it to spread the truth. When I was finally released from the hospital, I was a changed man. My family and friends noticed the difference immediately. I was more serious, more focused on spiritual matters. I started attending church regularly and studying the Bible intensively. I joined Bible study groups and began sharing my story with anyone who would listen. Some people were skeptical, of course. Others thought I was crazy. But there were those who listened, who seemed to sense the urgency and truth in my words. I reached out to my Muslim friends and neighbors, trying to share what I had learned. Some were offended and cut ties with me. Others listened politely but didn't take me seriously. A few, however, seemed troubled by my story and asked to hear more. I started a blog to share my experience more widely. I wrote about what I had seen in hell, about the souls I had encountered, and about the importance of accepting Jesus as the only path to salvation. The blog gained attention, both positive and negative. I received messages from people all over the world. Some thanked me for opening their eyes. Others accused me of spreading hate and intolerance. But I knew I couldn't stop. The memory of those suffering souls, begging for someone to warn their loved ones, drove me forward. I began speaking at churches and Christian events, sharing my story and urging people to spread the gospel. I emphasized the importance of reaching out to Muslims and others who followed false religions. My work wasn't without challenges. I faced criticism and even threats. Some accused me of Islamophobia or religious intolerance, but I knew that true tolerance meant caring enough about people to share the truth with them, even when it was uncomfortable. As the months passed, I saw the impact of my message growing. I received letters and emails from people who had converted to Christianity after hearing my story. Some were former Muslims who said my experience had made them question their beliefs and seek the truth. One day, I received a message that particularly touched me. It was from a young Muslim woman named Amira. She wrote, "Mr. Caldwell, I want to thank you for sharing your story. At first I was angry and thought you were just trying to insult my faith, but something made me keep reading. I've always had questions about my religion that no one could answer. Your experience made me realize I needed to search for the truth, no matter where it led. I've started reading the Bible, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm finding real answers. Please pray for me as I continue this journey." Messages like Amira's reminded me why I had to keep going, even when it was difficult. My family struggled to adjust to the new me at first. Sarah worried about the attention my story was attracting and the effect it might have on our lives. The kids were embarrassed when their friends asked about their crazy dad who saw hell. But over time, they began to understand the importance of what I was doing. Sarah started joining me in my outreach efforts, and the kids became more open to discussing faith and spirituality. As my mission grew, I felt led to start a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing the gospel with Muslims and other non-Christians. We provided resources, training, and support for evangelism efforts around the world. Through it all, I never forgot what I had seen in hell. The memory of those suffering souls drove me to work harder to reach more people with the truth. Years passed, and I saw the fruits of my labor. Churches were growing, with more and more former Muslims finding true faith in Jesus. My organization expanded, reaching people in countries I had never even visited. But I knew there was still so much work to be done. Billions of people around the world were still following false religions, heading towards the fate I had witnessed. As I sit here now, writing down my story one more time, I'm filled with a sense of urgency. If you're reading this, please understand, this isn't just a story. It's a warning and a call to action. No matter what you believe now, I urge you to seek the truth. Read the Bible with an open heart. Learn about Jesus Christ and his offer of salvation. Don't let pride, tradition, or fear keep you from finding the only path to eternal life. And if you're already a Christian, remember that we have a responsibility to share the truth with others. Don't be silent. Don't let fear of offending people keep you from sharing the gospel. The stakes are too high. Every day people are dying without knowing Christ. Every day souls are entering hell, facing an eternity of suffering. We can't save everyone, but we can try. My experience showed me the reality of hell, but it also showed me the power of God's love and the importance of his truth. I was given a second chance, not just at life, but at fulfilling God's purpose for me. As I finish writing, I pray that my words will touch hearts and change lives. I pray that more people will find the truth before it's too late. And I pray that one day I'll stand before God and hear him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Remember, the choice is yours. Choose wisely. Choose life. Choose Jesus. If this story has touched you, please don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more life-changing testimonies. Share this video with your friends and family. It could be the message that leads them to eternal life. Together, we can spread the truth and make a difference in the world.